¿Qué pasa, familia de dinero? I am your host, Champion El Dinero, a truck driver on a detour towards wealth, and I hope that you join me on this journey. I want to say a big thank you to all the new subscribers on this channel, as well as any returning. And if you're a returning member, you should already hit that like button. It will be spread to other individuals out there, and I would greatly appreciate it. Today is a different video, and I'm about to be 28, in my late 20s. And I know a lot of people probably like, oh, he's 20 years old, he don't know too much. You'll be very surprised. I chose a life of hardship. Unfortunately, I've been in situations where I had to be in my car for heat. I've seen the power man shut off my power. I've been broke. I didn't know what to eat. I had ramen noodles, and at the time I had my ex-wife. I've been in bad situations, and in these bad situations, it constantly reminds me of, the biggest killers of wealth. So what we're going to be talking about is the 5 biggest killers of wealth in your early 20s. And I got it listed out right here. I'm not going to shout out any comments. I want to create a new series here where we talk about certain things that we could have done better in our youth or even younger, and what we could do going forward. You'll be surprised of these 5 unique things that you might learn. You probably overlooked, or maybe you already know, but stick around. And also at the end of the video, let me know exactly what is your #1 thing that is your biggest wealth killer. So, overspending in hobbies or business ideas. Now, as a young man, my grandmother would tell me a phrase that I never fully understood, and that was, don't go whole hog when you're half ready. I would get my paycheck and I would instantly want to start doing business ideas, that be it music, that be it streaming, or even an idea that I had in high school. I created a club in high school. It was the very first student created club, and it was really cool. I enjoyed the program that we did, but I looked at an opportunity. Michelle Obama cleared out the vending machines of all the unhealthy snacks, and I looked at it as an opportunity to start selling candy, chips, and whatnot. So I was kind of like the vending machine at the school, and I made quite a bit of money, but I overextended my hand because I went too big too soon. Of course, I had the club members sell for me, and so that drew attention, and I ultimately got shut down. But it was a very good first business idea. I was able to donate $100. I didn't have a job at that time, but I was able to donate $100 towards a good cause. On top of that, I was able to pocket my own money, pay people some money. So it was a very good learning experience, having people work under you. So you get to identify the people with good work ethics, some people that didn't. It was a great experience. But even when I was a streamer, I was on Twitch, and I was almost trying to get to partner status. I was affiliate, but partner status was on the horizon. I got substantial amount of money, but I invested in the beginning so heavily. I bought a keyboard, I bought a new desktop, I bought everything new, monitors, blah, blah. So I kind of maxed out a bunch of credit cards at that time at a young age, and not understanding the repercussions of doing these actions, the compound interest on these cards over time. So instead of building up slowly, I wanted to rush and get everything boom, bada bing, right there and then. So again, the phrase like my grandmother had told me, don't go whole hog when you're half ready. I'm telling you, that's a key right there. So next thing, the people I have around me. When I was young, again, a lot of these times were when I was kind of not really realizing the mistakes that would compound to later on killing a lot of my wealth building. But it was when I was working at the Target warehouse. I wanted to change my life, but I understood that my work ethic was supposed to be top tier. I wasn't supposed to be this individual that laid back, lazy. I couldn't do that. That's never been in my script. But I was at the Target warehouse, and at that time I had individuals that I was friends with. They would always complain. They talked a lot. They did a lot of like slacking. And the funniest thing is, I had bosses, and I had this boss, and she would always really appreciate the work I did. But then when she saw me kind of like laxing off due to the influence of others, they tried to keep me away from it, because of course I was a good productive individual, but you know, she even had a conversation and said, you know, I see something different, we just need you to kind of stay away from that. And I got offended by it, I really did. But I did see that mentality that was growing within me, just due to the influence that I had from individuals. Now these are good, they're good individuals, but granted, I should have really understood that, hey, it should be from my own volition to change my life, which I garnered and gathered from being there. And I then transferred myself from, you know, the Target warehouse to becoming a truck driver. I wanted to change my life, and I definitely have to say, taking that step has changed my life tremendously. Next thing is going to be not cooking or meal prepping, and I'll go ahead and show y'all something. Give me 1 second. All right, so I'm gonna open this up, but I got my teriyaki salmon, bok choy, and rice. I cooked this yesterday, so I'm gonna dive into it. But this is my meal prep. You know, last week I didn't get around to meal prepping, and it's been some time since I didn't meal prep, and I felt my pocket kind of like, ooh, you know, because you gotta eat. And so I noticed how much money I was spending in just food, and a lot of times we neglect that, especially now if you're getting processed food, but you neglect how much money you really spend on food. And so, you know, I went to a few places, 14 bucks for a meal, for a regular meal. What used to be like 6, 5, like 7, probably 5 years ago, is a astronomical amount today. So, it really is a wealth killer right there. If you're not cooking, it's really easy to learn how to cook. My mom showed me a little technique. Sometimes I gotta ask her some questions, but for the great majority of it, like I'm going to attribute myself as a big component as to how I started learning how to cook. You know, it started with my ex-wife. I noticed how much we were spending, so I got like one of those boxes, and the boxes would have all the ingredients. You just cook them up and there's your food. And then I learned how to cook doing that, you know. And then after that I started experimenting on my own. And to me right now, cooking, you know, if you gave me some chicken, I'll be like, okay, let me go ahead and put some seasoning on there, let it sit in the refrigerator, you know, cover it up, put it in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes, let it soak, the seasoning. Really, if you really want to get that oh my goodness, let it sit for a day. Let it sit for a whole day in there, and then, you know, throw it on there. You can make chicken nuggets. Just get some corn flour, cut up the chicken breast. There's a lot of things that you can honestly do with cooking. Steak, salmon, shrimp, all these things. It just takes knowledge. And you know, once you understand the concept of cooking, not being afraid, being kind of like doing your due diligence on learning, it gets easier for you. It's nothing but to whip up a few things, you know. And my mom, you know, being Puerto Rican, she would have a lot of dishes, Puerto Rican dishes that, you know, I would have to ask her, how'd you make this or how'd you do that? But ground beef, one of the easiest things, you could just throw a seasoning packet, make some tacos. But, you know, a lot of guys, they're starting to get onto it. A lot of women, they don't even know how to cook. A lot of guys and a lot of women, they don't know how to cook. So they'll DoorDash, and that's a big wealth killer right there. So I highly suggest, you know, it sucks to cook. The dishes are there. I had to do the dishes last night. It sucks. But the thing is that it saves you so much money tremendously. And honestly, it gets you out of the cycle of eating horrible food for you. Next thing is going to be not learning how money works. You know, I started learning how money works actually this year, to be honest. I started reading a book a day, a book within the gym, and I'm up to, like, I think I read 4 or 5 books this year, just in the gym alone. And what I do is I read about a page or two in between my sets. And the first book that I started off with was a book that I tried to start but didn't finish, but it was Rich Dad Poor Dad. And that book just tremendously changed the way I look at money. It is vitally important. See, my parents never really had to stress too much about money, but for me, I never grasped that concept. I saw money come in and money go out, which will lead on to the next thing. But when I really read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I started looking at things like, okay, is this an asset or a liability? And a lot of times we don't understand that, buying another pair of shoes, or, well, that's not a good example, another pair of pants or another pair of like shirt or something like that, we look at these things like, oh, this is an asset. It's not. We have this idea that we got to change. We can't wear the same shirt 5 days in a row. Not the same shirt, but we can't wear the same type of shirt, maybe have 5 pairs of the same shirt 5 days in a row, because we look at that as, oh, that's odd, when in reality it's not. A lot of times I wear oversized shirts because I want to remain humble. So this is a severely oversized shirt, and I'm pretty much an athletic build guy, but I want to remain humble inside because it took me quite a bit to sculpt the way I look, but nobody would know. Honestly, nobody would know. They'd be like, oh, this is a skinny guy, but I'm not. Anyway, so that was a big proponent, not learning how money works, what is an asset, what is a liability. I highly suggest a good starting point when it comes down to financial literacy. A lot of people want the magic book. Just start. I started off with Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm reading concurrently Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So I'm almost halfway through that book, and that's a great book. Once you understand the concept of money, it really, really changes your outlook on what you really are. Why are you spending it? Why am I gonna buy a coffee when I can replicate, like, you can buy coffee for like $7 today, and I'm being serious, $7. That $7, if you were to get all the ingredients, you can make that maybe 10 times, 14 times over if you just get the ingredients for it. But of course, it's a process. You have to put in the work. Okay, so the last one is kind of near and dear to my heart. Didn't learn to cherish the work I did in order to receive the money. Especially in the beginning of trucking, it was a experience for me. So everything was new, and I felt like, dang, I'm really getting paid to do this. But 3 years later, you're just like, okay, well, yeah. But a lot of us, we look at the next check, and the next check, but not cherishing the things that we did in order to get it. So it just becomes something where we put our hand out, you get barely paid enough, and that's it. But a lot of times when you tell your money to move, and this is how I really changed my position on wealth, is I look at money as a soldier. Every dollar is a soldier. I was in the military, and every dollar is a private. Every $5 is a sergeant. Every $10 is like it could be your platoon leader or whatever it is, and then you have your big dollar. The $100 is like your what's it called, lieutenant or captain, whatever you want to call it. Different divisions within the military have its different kind of things. But when it comes down to it, I want to send my money to do a job and return with wins, right? And so when I got into the stock market, I looked at, okay, the stock market is an opportunity of risk and reward. And some risks are just so dumb you shouldn't even touch it. Some risks are so good that if you touch it and hold it, then it'll explode, and these soldiers will bring in new recruitments for your arsenal, right? Or your army, right? So when I started looking at it that way, I realized that I have to cherish that dollar that comes in, because if you can't cherish a dollar, then you can't cherish two. And if you can't cherish two, you can't cherish 10, and you can't. So it's just a domino effect. A lot of individuals go to the casino and they blow their money, And I know, I understand it's a chance, it's the hype, it's the feeling of dopamine. But sometimes you need to let go of the dopamine in order to make some of the more logical positions in your life in order to build wealth. And so these are some of the biggest lessons that I've learned within my own life when it comes down to building wealth, and how to capitalize on it. Because if you don't, and I'll reveal with you guys, if you overspend in hobbies like getting Funko Pops, for me, I went a little Funko Pop crazy at one point, but those actually add in value determining on which ones. But sometimes your hobbies can be some of your biggest detriments, your business ideas, the people you have around you, sometimes the food that you keep eating that's over expensive, eating out, not learning how money works, and not cherishing the money that you have. One thing I regret is keeping $1 from the job, my very first job. I don't have that $1. I have money that I made 3 months ago. I have money from probably a year ago. But I don't have money 10 years ago. I don't have money from 5 years ago. So the thing is that sometimes you need a reminder of that money that, you know, money is a currency. But at least keep one thing from something you work hard for. And so the concept of work, the way we work, is it's really new. I mean, Henry Ford was a person who created the 9-to-5 schedule, the benefits and whatnot to bring over people, to appease them. So it's a new concept. Prior to that, people worked all day long and for low wages. So we live in a time period where building wealth is easy, but also being poor, just as poor, is easier. So I know that doesn't make sense, probably, but to me it does, because we have a period where you can do nothing, or just do bare minimum, or if you want to strive for some real wealth building, it's easy to figure it out. It's harder to execute and actually obtain it, because that takes time. But I hope this video helps a lot of individuals into thinking about it. It's not these kind of videos where we talk about, oh, you know, some of the biggest wealth kill is like buying Gucci. And we all know that. By now you should understand that. You should understand not saving, not doing all that stuff that's normal. I mean, a lot of these answers come from minute details. It's the minute details in each person's personality. Where does your money go? A lot of times your ledger tells you who you are. And some individuals don't want to look at their ledger because they're in fear that they're like, oh, okay, my money went all the way to Bath and Body Works. My money went to McDonald's. My money went here. It tells a story of you. A lot of accountants can read that like your spreadsheet of all the things you bought, and they'll be like, oh, you're a big spender in Victoria's Secret, right? Trying to get the secret, but you're never winning. That's just a reality. So thank you guys so much for watching. If this helped, leave a like, comment down below what is your biggest wealth killer, and I will catch all of you champion investors in the next one. Peace. Adios. Man, what am I saying? Adios, not peace. Adios. Oh.